Okay, to get started with my Mexican style chicken spaghetti, I am going to bake some chicken. Now you can get the amount of chicken for this recipe by using rotisserie, or you can boil your chicken, but today I'm going to bake it. And I am going to season it with this Chupacabra Brisket Magic Season All, and I love this stuff. You can definitely season, if you're going to bake your chicken, with anything that you like. Salt and pepper. You can do your own chicken rub. Sometimes Lowry's seasoning salt works, but this is what I'm using today. Definitely season the way you like. So after placing it on 2 baking sheets, I'm going to season any spots that did not get any of this Season All. And then I'm going to be baking this chicken in a preheated oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for around 45 minutes to an hour. Actually, some of this chicken still is really cold and had a little bit of frost on it, so it might take an hour. But if your chicken is completely thawed, 45 minutes should do the trick. And once that chicken is baked, I am going to remove it from the oven and I'm going to let it rest. I'm going to let it rest not only to retain that moisture and juice, just let it rest, but I'm also going to let it cool a little bit before I handle it. And again, I'm only making half of this recipe, but for the description below, I'm going to list the ingredients and measurements for a full recipe. Okay, so my chicken is ready to be shredded and deboned here, so I am going to remove the skin. Now, for those of you that are not big fans of chicken skin, discard it, but I'm actually going to set it to the side because I will be chopping it up and adding it to my chopped and shredded chicken. Now, in the last video that I used shredded chicken, I had a lot of commenters leave the tip in the comment section of using a hand mixer to easily shred chicken. So for those of you looking for a very convenient way to shred your chicken, definitely use a hand mixer. And they also said not to overmix it because then it'll really pulverize the chicken. Now my hand mixer is packed in the garage, so I don't feel like looking for it. So I'm going to do this by hand and I'm going to chop it. And as you can see, this chicken breast is so moist and tender. I could eat it just like this. But anyways, I'm going to continue chopping my chicken and that should do the trick. And I'm actually making several recipes today using some of this chicken, so I'm only using a portion of it for this particular recipe. So all of my chicken is chopped finely and somewhat shredded. Now I'm also going to finely chop this chicken skin. I took the time to season it well, and I do want that flavor in all of the shredded chicken, but you definitely can discard it if you are not a fan of chicken skin. So next I am going to fire roast some poblano peppers. In the full recipe, you'll want to use 4. Now I am going to fire roast these on an open flame. You can definitely broil these to char the skin, but I find this just the way I like doing it. But definitely use the method that's convenient for you. So I'm going to place these on an open flame. I'm going to be turning them and just charring the skin. And the reason why I do this, or why most people do this, is to remove the skin and you're left with a very delicious flesh that's easy to work with, because the skin is very waxy and you don't want to eat poblano skin because it's kind of tough to chew and digest. So once everything is charred on the exterior, just like this, I am going to place it in a bowl. You can definitely put this in a grocery bag. Normally I do that, but I don't have any. And someone actually said that that's probably not a sanitary way to do that. So I'm going to go for a glass bowl and cover it with cling wrap, and I'm just going to set it aside and let these peppers sweat, and this will make it easier to peel the skin later. So you want to let them sweat for around 15 minutes. Okay, I'm also going to be using corn, fresh corn, and you'll want to use 4 ears of corn. I'm doing a half recipe, so I'm only using 2. And I'm going to remove the kernels, and an easier way to keep all your kernels together is to get a bowl and do this, but I'm just doing it this way. And once everything is cut from the cob, you'll end up with a good bunch of corn. And again, measurements and ingredients will be listed below this video for a full recipe. I'm also going to be using garlic and onion. Here I have 3 cloves of finely minced garlic and 1 small onion chopped. Next, I will be using some chicken broth, and I like to make mine from the Knorr bouillon powder, the chicken flavored. And what I do is, for the full recipe, I will take 16 ounces of hot water and I will add 4 teaspoons of the bouillon powder and mix it up, and that's my chicken broth. If you are using a low sodium chicken broth or a more natural selection of chicken broth, you'll definitely want to add some salt at the end of it, because Knorr bouillon powder is very flavorful and has a lot of sodium, so I don't need to add salt. But if you're using something that's more of a natural chicken broth, you'll have to season according to your preference. I'm also going to be using Mexican style table cream. This is a very thick, fresh cream. If you cannot find this, you'll want to use heavy cream. Now, this container is only 15 fluid ounces. So in a full recipe, I would use 2 containers of this, but if you're using something like heavy cream, you can go with 2 16-ounce containers of heavy cream. I'm also using 1 pound of spaghetti. Today I'm halving that, but definitely in a full recipe, 1 pound of spaghetti. And I'm also going to use some mozzarella cheese. I would typically use 16 ounces or a full pound of mozzarella cheese in this. Today I'm halving that. You can also use the cheese of your choice, but I have tons of mozzarella cheese in my fridge to use. Okay, so my peppers have sweated out for around 15 minutes, so now I'm going to start peeling the skin. You can definitely use the method that you find most convenient. I'm just going to peel it with my hands and then give it a quick rinse under cold water and pat it dry with a napkin. You can definitely use a spoon. I know some people use a wet napkin to peel back the skin. Just do what's convenient for you. I'm also going to slice open the cleaned peppers and remove the seeds from the inside, just like this. And then I'm going to cut the stems, and I'm going to slice them into strips. I'll do them into long strips and cut those in half. So once I'm done slicing up my poblano peppers, I am going to start my cream sauce. So here I have a preheated pot, and I'm going to add some butter. Now, I would typically add 4 tablespoons of butter. Today I'm adding 2. And then once the butter is melted, I'm going to start sauteing my onion, garlic, and corn. I'm going to saute this on a medium heat for around 5 minutes. I do want to definitely sweat out the onion, so I'm going to add a pinch of salt to that, not a lot. And once I add the garlic and the corn, I'm going to continue sauteing this for around somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. I definitely want to give the corn a head start because it's fresh and you do want it to cook by the time everything's done. Okay, so now that everything has cooked and sweated out for around 5 minutes, I'm going to add my chicken broth. And you'll notice I didn't work with the high heat, so I didn't get a lot of golden brown coloring or any fond at the bottom of the pan. And the reason why I don't do that in this particular recipe is because I do want the cream sauce to stay kind of like white. It's a white creamy sauce, and if I get too much color on the corn, garlic, and onion, it'll change the color of the sauce. But do what works for you because there is a lot of flavor in fond. So now I'm going to add all of my Mexican cream right in here. I'm going to scrape everything I can out of this container. And again, if you cannot find fresh Mexican cream, you can definitely add heavy cream to this. And again, check the description below for the full measurements and ingredients used for this recipe. So at this point, everything is pretty much added to the sauce with the exception of the chicken and the poblano peppers. I'm going to mix in this cream into the rest of the chicken broth, and then once it's mixed, I'm going to start working on my spaghetti. So I have a pot of boiling water here. I'm adding 2 hefty handfuls of salt. I'm going to give that a mix to make sure the salt dissolves, and then once I do that, I'm going to make sure that water comes right back up to a rolling boil, and then I'm going to add my spaghetti. And you want to follow the cooking instructions on the box of spaghetti that you have. I'm going to take this to around 11 minutes, and I'm just going to let that continue cooking. In the meantime, my sauce has been gently simmering, so now I'm going to add my mozzarella cheese. And I'm going to reserve a little bit of mozzarella cheese for the top because I am going to put this in a broiler to get bubbly and golden brown on top. So you'll want to reserve some if you're going to bake it. So here I have a very gentle low simmer. Nothing's boiling. Again, I don't want this to rage out of control. You'll burn any cheese and milk fat in here, so I'm not doing that. Now I'm going to add my chicken right into the cream sauce, give that a mix, and you'll notice I have not added the poblano peppers. Again, if I add them too soon, they're already roasted and cooked, so I don't want them to overcook, so that's why I add them last. I won't be adding the poblano peppers until I actually add my pasta. So I'm going to let this just sit here and gently simmer on a very low heat until my pasta's cooked. And once my pasta's cooked, I'm going to add it right into the cream sauce from the boiling water. You don't want to add too much water to this, so you want to make sure you drain out the water from your pasta. And then right on top of the pasta, before mixing, I am going to add all of my poblano peppers. Again, I don't want them to overcook and get too mushy, because if that happens, they get too mushy, they don't keep a nice texture, and it'll turn your sauce green if you let them simmer too long in that cream sauce. So I'm going to give everything a really good mix. I'm going to toss in the pasta and the poblano peppers right into the cream sauce. And this is done. You can actually serve it just like this. If you are someone that loves a creamy texture to your pasta sauces, serve it right out of the pot, just like this. But I know there are a lot of people that want to bake this. So what I suggest you do is actually if you're going to bake this in a big baking dish, you'll probably want to split your spaghetti noodles in half before boiling it, because it makes it easier to handle. And here I have a buttered baking dish. And if you're doing the full recipe, you'll want to use a 9x13 baking dish. You want to butter it, and then you add all of your creamy spaghetti, your chicken spaghetti that is, and you're going to add it into your baking dish, and then with that reserved mozzarella cheese or whatever cheese you decide to use, you'll sprinkle it right on top. Now, if you like maybe a crunchier texture to the topping of this baked pasta dish, you could also throw in some breadcrumbs with little pats of butter. I've seen that in the comment sections before where I bake things, and texturally I do understand. Sometimes adding breadcrumbs will add a nice crunch to the golden brown topping. So I'm going to put this in the broiler for around 3 to 5 minutes on high, and then this is done and ready to be served. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.